All right, I'm good.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate y'all joining us. Got Coach Crean here to talk about our preseason so far. I hope everybody saw that we released our non-conference schedule this morning to go with the SEC schedule last week. So our schedule is set with 25 games. A couple of reminders, if you would, when you're not asking a question, mute your microphone to limit background noise. Also, I'll call on people in twos to ask questions. And then finally, also remember no live streaming of the Zoom. With that, we'll get an opening comment from Coach Crean. And then our first two questions today will go to Mike Griffith, followed by Mark Weiser.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining this as usual. And you're more used to doing this than I am with everything you're dealing with football, with the Zooms. But when it comes to press conferences and interview sessions, but I appreciate you doing it, taking the time to do it. We're off today from practice. That's one reason we can't have players today, because we can't require them to be a part of it on an off day. But we've had 21 days of our allotted 30 days of practice. You get 42 days to find 30 days, and you take 2 days off a week. So today's one of our days off. This week, we'll actually scrimmage more with SEC officials tomorrow, which is something we have not done. In the past, we would bring officials in sometimes every day, usually every other day in a normal year, but we have not had officials in at all. And the only officials we can bring out in are SEC officials that go through the protocols. And with that, everything has been about handling the protocols, making sure we're taking every possible step that we can, making the adjustments, having the flexibility, being able to monitor everything the best we can. We've also had some other sicknesses that we've had to deal with throughout this period, but you just get used to it. You get used to what you're dealing with injury-wise. You get used to what you're dealing with sickness-wise. Certainly, we've had some COVID cases on the staff and with the team. But every day is another opportunity for this team to get better, and that is exactly what they're doing. And their energy has been fantastic. Their spirit's been very good. The camaraderie has been very good. And I love coaching them. I mean, we have 8 new players, so there's so much that's going on that's new for everybody every day. Plus, we're really trying to expand our pace offensively and defensively. And we're trying to understand what that's all about. But I'll open it up to questions, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Coach, this is Mike Griffith. I guess I just start out by asking, where's Georgia Tech on the schedule? I mean, this has been a big game for years. I think Georgia's got a streak of winning 4 or 5 in a row against Tech, and I don't see them on the schedule. No,
well, both schools, and I think Josh Pastner did a really good job, with his when he spoke of this. Both schools tried to find a way to make it work this season. But due to changes in the conference scheduling, the existing non-conference schedules that were there after November 25th, exam schedules being different, there were a lot of things that just didn't make it work out. And like with football, it's disappointing when 2 schools that have that kind of rivalry and the fans look forward to it can't play. But it's situations beyond our control, and we look forward to resuming it again next season.
Hey, Tom, I want to just ask you, I guess we'll start with, let me ask you what your front court looks like in terms of obviously losing some guys. Where do you think you're going to get rebounding and post defense from? How's that looking like in practice?
Well, you know what, Mark, it's got to be the post defense. And I tell these guys this all the time. Some of the best post defenders I've ever had as a coach have been guards. So there's no reason for guys not to be able to get down into the post and what we call a red, which is a front, or a slip red, which is half of a front. And that's going to be important. It's going to be important that we recognize when we're in a switching game that we've got to switch a bigger guy back in. But I think it's the rebounding, the interior defense, and I'll say interior, not just post defense, because it's the same thing with driving into the lane. It's got to be collective. There's no doubt about that. It's great post defense starts with ball pressure. Great rebounding starts with forcing tough shots and making sure that you got 5 guys inside the foul line when the shot goes up. So this is a smaller team. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. PJ Horn started every game at Virginia Tech last year at the 5 spot, and he's 6'6". But with that brings other advantages. And PJ Horn at some point's got a chance to be like PJ Tucker with the way that he shoots the ball. And I fully believe he'll be an NBA player at some point here. And so you have to I say that because what you might give up in size and length, you've got to be able to take advantage of in other areas. But the bottom line for us, we've got length on the perimeter. We've got to make sure we do a great job of being physical, being aware, being aggressive, and being collectively together.
Next two questions will go to
Mike,
Anthony
I'm
Bassett,
sorry,
followed
because I
by
answered-
Chip Towers. Anthony.
Let me ask you, did Mike have another question? Because I asked that Georgia Tech, answered the Georgia Tech one. Did Mike Griffith have another question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Chip.
That's Dash.
I'm sorry,
Dash
Anthony.
first. Go ahead, Dash. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Get it arranged here. Coach, obviously you brought in, a lot more older players this year. How much has that helped in regards to everybody picking up the system and doing things you want to do?
I can't equate how important it is because they know the pace. I think this is different for them. I think the pace we're trying to play at, they'll talk a lot to the coaches and to the other guys on the team about the level of intensity for the duration of a practice, which is different for them, but they have handled that extremely well. And they come in, there's maturity, they're knowledgeable, they pick things up fast, they want to help their teammates. They know the pace of college basketball, and obviously it's different for everybody this year with how long we should be getting ready for, game 2 right now after playing our opening game on Tuesday night. But it just didn't work out that way, obviously, with the change in the schedule and the change of the timing of the schedule. So these guys have handled that really, really well. They've handled the preseason well. They've handled the ramp up to practices. They've handled the practices well. And I'm glad that we have them.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Coach, you got 8 newcomers on the team. I just wonder, does it feel like you're proverbially just rebuilding every year? It seems like third straight year you're kind of almost starting from scratch. And then B, you touched on this a little bit, I think, with PJ Horn, but of all those newcomers, can you give us an idea, since we haven't even been able to get a glimpse of, sure, out of those guys, who do you anticipate being pretty significant contributors right out of the box?
Well, in answer to the first part of the question, it is hard. And at some point you'd like to have a little more stability, rather than just having 5 guys back. I hope that we do over a period of time. But the way college basketball and really college sports in general are changing with the potential of what's going to happen with the transfer rules. The rules change right in front of us. All right. When guys are getting eligible and guys are getting cleared. I think that's here to stay. And hopefully there's a little more clarity as we get on down the line into the next couple of years. But right now, you can't coach with clarity at all because you don't know what's going to happen. There's so many different things. I come into this league in 2018. I did not think we'd still be sitting there after the FBI scandal and all those teams. And there's really very little that has happened yet, but in sense of how it's all going to turn out, but you just have to deal with it. Right. So that's kind of what it is like with building your roster. But right now, roster management for us is much more about making sure we're staying safe in the protocols, that we're following the rules and the guidelines, that we're taking the proper steps every day. And then down the road, hopefully, as this gets better, hopefully we will have more guys here. But I think we have to be adaptable to change on a consistent basis and do the very best we can with it. As far as the players, PJ, and I've said this before, he made 1 3 as a sophomore at Virginia Tech. He made 45 threes as a junior at Virginia Tech, graduates in 3 years. Our guys get excited every time he touches the ball, and I know I do. And what we want to do is we want to get him fouled more. He's driving the ball a lot more than I think he has probably since high school. We're putting him in a lot of different situations. Yesterday, I had to remind him that it is okay for him to take more than 1 or 2 dribbles in a single space. He can actually drive and attack and play with great freedom. And he works hard. He picks things up fast. And he's got to become more vocal. Certainly he can add physicality to his game. He's been banged up a little bit through this time period, but he's back healthy now. But I love having him, and he's a pure winner. I mean, just an absolute pure winner. Justin Kier has got tremendous speed, strength, can really get to the rim. He's got to become a more consistent shooter and from three, but he scored 16 points a game in the Atlantic 10 as a junior. I mean, so he's a bona fide college scorer. But I think the athletic ability that he's playing with and the tenacity that he plays with serves him well on both offense and defense. And we just got to keep finding ways to allow him to attack. Andrew Garcia is really a guy that can score inside. He's played a lot of the power forward position in college. So he, again, is getting more comfortable handling the ball, being in pick and rolls, driving and playing. We're trying to work on the consistency of his shot. And really, when you're building consistency of shot, it becomes a lot about the footwork. It becomes a lot about the release, and it becomes a lot about the finish and making sure that all three of those things are in place by making sure you have the right balance as you go into it. So we spend a lot of time building that. But when it comes to a guy that wants to win, has won, will compete, will do all the little things. The greatest thing I like about all three of these guys, and this is the difference in younger guys sometimes, not one day do they ever come in and say, well, am I the 3? Am I the 4? I want to be the 2. I got to have the ball in my hands. They want to score. They want to play, but they come in and they understand basketball, and they understand it's about movement, and they're getting better at it. They understand it's about cutting. They understand it's about screening. They understand it's about helping your teammates be successful. And we just got to continue to build on that every chance that we get with them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next two questions we'll go to Jed May, followed by Allison Mastrangelo.
Okay.
Hey, Coach. Collective leadership was also something that you mentioned a lot with your team last year. One, do you foresee that being the case again this year? And I guess as an extension of that, do you see Sahvir and Toumani sort of growing more into leadership roles in their second year in the program?
Well, no question with Sahvir, and he has shown that many ways. He's shown it this summer. He shows it in practice. He shows it. I think he shows it a lot of times when we're not even in the gym, when it comes to getting guys organized, when we put new offenses in and plays. And we're asking a lot of Sahvir because we're trying to take what I think is as fast as any guard in the country and utilize that in an even better pace. And it's going to take a little bit of time, I think, to get the pace that we want down offensively and defensively. But I know Sahvir is going to be a huge, huge part of how that goes. Toumani definitely with the way that he's playing, but he's got to be more verbal and vocal. And right now we're pushing him to be that, to play with more physicality, to play with more confidence, and to have him understand that he'll gain even more confidence by the way he brings confidence to his teammates, not only with his play, but with his voice. But there's no question that when you add the 3 seniors to Ty Fagan, who's working extremely hard at this, and Sahvir and Toumani, those are guys that are definitely bringing leadership, but they're all better when it's collective. I mean, we're not a team that you're going to look at and say, okay, these 1 or 2 guys are going to lead this thing every night in scoring. I mean, it was easy to look at Anthony last year. It was easy to look at Rayshawn and say pretty much on any given night, they're going to be up there near the top, if not the top. I'm not sure we're like that this year. And as I try to get across to them, balance is not a bad thing. My best teams might have had some star players, but we had a lot of balance. And that's the way we're built right now. We don't have that one guy that night in and night out, the defense is game planning to take this away or that away because they're capable of getting this on any given night. That doesn't mean that they won't get those numbers, but we're not built that way right now. And I think the more that we can have balance, well, it plays right into the leadership part. The more that it's collective, it's like I said earlier about the defense in the post and in the interior and in the rebounding. We have to be a basketball team. I mean, it has got to be a team. And we're trying to get it even faster. But it's got to be a team that works together, that plays hard together, and then can help each other improve, and then not only get over their own mistakes quickly, but get over their teammates' mistakes. And sometimes you can look at a team and you see a team, they hang their head when somebody turns it over. They hang their head when somebody misses a shot. Those aren't teams that are absolutely going to thrive. The teams that can get over it quickly and move on not only to the next play themselves, but move on to when their teammates make a mistake or help their teammates get over a mistake. those are the teams that move ahead, and we've got to build that constantly.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, Coach Crean. I was more so curious going back to kind of the COVID protocols. What has it been like for your team kind of adjusting to it? And have you kind of been watching what's been going on with football and how there have been, games postponed and things like that, and just showing your guys like how serious we need to take this virus?
There's not a day that we don't talk about it. Some days longer than others, but more importantly, there's not a day that it's not visual to them, with the sense of our trainer, our strength coach, our other coaches being on top of this and making sure that we're masked up. And we don't let one mistake flow into the next day, right? You forget your training mask one day, you're going to have to leave the training room, right? It's not, well, bring it tomorrow. No, you leave the training room, go get your mask and come back. And I think it's like that because I'm 54 years of age. All right. And the other day I forgot my mask at home. Well, I'm glad I had another one in the car. Right. So I could still stop at Starbucks, because you're not getting in Starbucks without that mask. Right. So to me, we have to be flexible. We have to be cognizant, but we got to be diligent. Right. And most importantly, we have to understand we're not in a bubble. I mean, we're absolutely not in a bubble. And you can see most football programs, most college basketball programs, they're not in a bubble right now. It was in a bubble that worked out really, really well for them. All right. So when we try to keep them bubbled the best that we can inside of this. And I think the protocols and the CDC guidelines and the task force and everything has done a great job of that. But it's how cognizant and aware they are when they're not here, around other people, around their living arrangements, around other students, around other parts of town, in classes, in restaurants. And we just keep harping on it constantly. But the one thing we're not doing is we're not living in fear. Like I'll tell them all the time, I say, you can smile through your mask, right? Just because you have a mask on doesn't mean you have to be unhappy. And it's the same thing with life. You got to live life, but you've just got to be absolutely smart. And the moment that you don't think it can happen to you is a huge mistake. I was on the phone with Tom Izzo yesterday, and we talked for a long time because he's got a lot of time on his hands right now, sitting at home. But I know how diligent he is. I know how cognizant he is on a daily basis with his team and with his players. And they're testing every day inside of the Big Ten at 7:15 in the morning. And he's still stunned as to how he could have contracted the virus, right? But it just goes to show there is no real rhyme or reason to this. And I share stories like that. Anytime we see something new, anytime we hear about something, we read something, we want to make sure they get it. But we also want to keep talking about our own real life experiences because we have gone through it. And when you look at the numbers across the country and you look that now we go from testing one time a week to next week we start testing 3 times a week. As we get ready for competition, it's going to change even more. And we want to be flexible, but more importantly, we want to be extremely smart.
We'll next go to Tori Heck, followed by Ryan Curley.
Coach, going back to Chip and Jed's questions about kind of being in this perpetual rebuilding phase where you keep getting these younger guys. Jed mentioned Sahvir and Toumani, but what Christian Brown was kind of the third sophomore player that's back this year that was really the kind of third to that trio of freshmen last year. What can we expect from him this year, and what are you expecting from him?
Well, he's definitely improved, and I think his leadership will come out more. And I didn't mention him in leadership, but there's definitely a place for that. But he's got to have confidence in the games. And so many times when you haven't had the games yet to have that confidence, your voice doesn't come out. And he really came into the summer and to the fall wanting to have that. He's been banged up a little bit with some nagging injuries and a little bit of sickness. And we're still going through that some, but he has improved. His jump shot has improved a ton. He's got to be a stellar defender. Goes back to what Mark asked early on. I mean, when you start talking about rebounding and interior defense, he's got to be a huge part of that because he's got length, he's got quickness, he's got speed, he's got tenacity. And that's where he's got to be. He's got to be an even more skilled version of what made him Christian Brown in high school, which was doing all those things. And so to me, if we get that and he gets some confidence, I think his game will continue to take off.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Hey, Coach Ryan Curley here. You mentioned the 8 newcomers coming in this year, and obviously it's not a normal off season. How has the gelling process and the chemistry building process been with all the new protocols?
Well, I think it's going fine. I really do. And they're together a lot. We just try to keep them distance, but they're spending time together. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And we've had a couple cases and contract tracing cases, not lately at all, but even going back to the summer where guys were together riding in a car to go eat. And, they didn't have their masks on in the car and they sat in the car together to eat, or they sat outside to eat, rather than stay in space. You don't want that, but at the same time, you love that this new group of guys is spending time together, sharing rides to a Chipotle or Jason's Deli or all these different places that they go, because we actually get down, okay, what's within 15 minutes together, what's not, right? And you worry about them so much. But the thing that I really like, and again, we haven't played any games yet. We haven't doled out any minutes yet. We haven't had some guys come back the next day after not having good games or not playing as much as they'd like, and that always affects things. But I really, really like the way that they've come together. I like the way that they listen. I like the way that they support. I like the way that they're buying into the structure of it. They don't get frustrated with each other, and it'd be very easy because we're having some very tough, grueling, this is how we're going to play at this pace type of practices. And they're learning more and more to get over their own fatigue, which is hard, and channel some energy into their teammates to help them get over it. And that's by design because we don't have the exhibitions this year. We haven't had referees in. All this stuff is new. It's all different. What we wanted to do opening of the season, MTE wise, we weren't able to do, right? And with teams not being able to travel, it's been a cluster. It really has. And everybody's going through it. And we haven't even started games yet, with these new protocols. So the togetherness of your team, the energy of that togetherness, the ability to create your own energy, especially in these environments that aren't going to be as full as what they've been in the past, the ability to get each other through the doldrums, get each other through the tough moments and the tough days, and really in the guts of the game and the heart of the game, to be able to be together is going to be crucial. So that chemistry's got to be there. And that's what we're trying to build, and they're building it on a daily basis.
We'll next go to Andy Walsh, followed by Alec McQuaid.
Hey, Coach. I guess with, no real preseason with, scrimmages, no exhibitions like with, Charlotte or Valdosta State last year, how difficult do you expect, the start of the year to be, especially, with all the new guys?
Oh, there's no doubt that there's no way to prepare for that. And with a veteran team, you need those games or scrimmages. With a veteran team, you need the referees to be in the gym, to tighten it up even more than what the coaches or graduate assistants are trying to do. You need that. And we don't have it. We don't have it. And so there's going to be a lot of baptism by fire, trial and error, whatever phraseology you want to use, that's what it's going to be. And we're going to need a level of patience with that. And I'm going to have a level of patience with that and keep it in perspective. But if we're going hard and we're playing through things and we're trying to make each other better, and we have a commitment to defensive transition, challenging shots, getting 5 guys inside of that lane area to rebound the ball, getting out on that break, moving the ball, we'll get through it. We'll get through it. And we all have to be mentally prepared for what's coming, even though we have no idea what that is, because of the protocols, because of the spike that we see in the country that is going to potentially keep going. None of us really know, but we have to be prepared for it. And in this day and age, if you don't have flexibility, you're going to get left behind real quick. And that's not only coaching staffs, that's players as well. And we've got to stay true to that.
Hey, Coach, in a kind of an interesting change of fate as well, the NBA draft is still coming up. I'm just curious, how much have you talked to Anthony Edwards before the draft, and how have you helped him, and what's kind of been unique as far as his experience goes before this draft?
Well, I was on FaceTime with him 2 nights ago. We texted last night. He was here a couple of weeks ago. It's more texting than anything else. What I love about him is he keeps in touch with this team so much. And it's great. I mean, it's like he never left in that respect of being a great teammate. And ultimately, I've said this before in some other areas, but it's true. I mean, as much as you miss him as a player, and obviously he's a tremendous talent, I miss him as a person. I miss the personality. I miss his energy. There's an aura about him. I mean, he is a charismatic person, and we saw it all at the age of 18, and he's that way at the age of 19 as he gets ready to embark on this. I think for me, he's got really good people around him. He's had some workouts, not that many. And I think he's done a very good job in that. My advice to him is to keep being the same guy every day through this. Don't get high or low based on anything you hear, anything you read. Don't take what you're hearing with any sense of definitiveness, because especially now, I mean, and really for the last couple of weeks, but especially now, there's so many smoke screens being thrown out there. There's so much hyperbole being thrown out there. There's so many opinions being thrown out there, and you can't get worked up. And I know it's going to get harder for him with that because there's so much uncertainty. You know, when you pick a college, you know you're going to that college. When you're going to get drafted, you have no idea. And he wants to be number one, and I want him to be number one. But at the end of the day, the thing that keeps me awake at night when it comes to Anthony Edwards is being in the right environment, where he's going to have a head coach that's going to invest in him in a big way and take that responsibility. And trust me, the NBA is not full of 30 NBA head coaches that are willing to do that, you know, because a lot of times of where they are in their life. And my hope is that he gets that person. My hope is that he gets a coaching staff that's going to spend that time with him. My hope is that he gets around leaders and mentors in a team that no matter where they are as players, they can help show him what it means to be a professional, and that he'll listen to, because he's got humility, he's got hunger, he wants to learn, but he's also very confident, and he's going to need people that he trusts, people that he will respond to him, and that will get to know him and not assume things, and that aren't afraid to make him better. And I think that's one reason that he liked it here. He had structure, there was commitment, and he knew we were going to come in every day to make him better, whether he wanted to or not. And most days he did, but every once in a while when it was hard, we had to push him through it. And my hope is that he continues to get around people that he respects that will help him continue to do that. Because I think I've said this, and I'll say it again on here. I wouldn't want to be the leadership group that didn't pick him and answer to my fan base in 2 years. I just wouldn't want to be that group. And if you base it on the first couple of months, yeah, maybe not, right? But I don't know if you can say that with any rookie. But I think that if he gets in the right environment, he is just going to flourish. And again, like I said, my hope is that he gets with the right place, and that he gets a chance to do it right away. But most importantly, he gets a chance to do it with people that are going to help him learn.
We'll go to Palmer Toms, followed by, I know Chip Towers has a second question he wants to ask. If anybody else has another question, we've sort of been through the rotation. Throw your hand up on the Zoom and we'll come back around to you. But Palmer, followed by Chip.
Yeah, Coach, obviously there's been a lot of talk in here about the graduate transfer additions. But what have you seen out of the two true freshmen as well as the junior college guys? And how do you think they can all factor into the program year one?
Well, I think bottom line, the two freshmen, KD Johnson and Josh Taylor, have worked hard every day. They've come in and they've been a product of being around other veterans that know how to work. That I think the fact that you have a Ty Fagan, that you have the three seniors, that you have Jonathan Ned and Michael Starks, who've been well coached and have been in a college environment, that helps the young players. It certainly helps the sophomores, so I think it helps the freshmen. Michael Starks and Jonathan Ned are learning the speed and pace of the game. They're learning the strength, especially in the case of Jonathan, in the sense of what he's got to have strength-wise, how he's got to play physically, where he gets his shots from, really understanding the commitment to spacing, cutting, moving without the ball that's there, getting the shot off quicker. Michael is continuing to get better and better. He's had a very good week and a half. And after he had a rather serious ankle injury, not anything that required anything extensive, but he wasn't able to practice for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So he's been much better with that. But every day when we come out there, there's nobody that sets the ground floor for not working, right? And last year that wasn't always the case, especially with young players. Now, Jaquan Walton is continuing to improve and has put together a really good week and a half. And it's competitive right now. But our whole goal was that we're going to have a consistency of depth, not just bodies, not just guys that look good, that can play, but guys that are consistent in how they play, so we can continue to bring this pace. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we're trying to win when we're not as big. And without that bona fide guy that is just going to break the defense down when they want to get a shot or take something out of nothing, we want to make sure that we've got a collective group that can play the pace and bring fatigue and pressure to the game.
Yeah, Coach, a little bit of a housekeeping question. Sorry to have to bring this up, but on Justin Kier and that arrest October 9th, I understand 3 players were with him too. Is there going to be any discipline in terms of these first couple of games or anything with him or any of those other players?
Well, we're going through the disciplinary process, and we've addressed that incident not only internally, but how you would with the athletic association. And we've stayed in really good contact with those procedures and are still working through that. But we've been on top of it since the time that it happened. There was no question it was disappointing. We've taken steps from that day on, which are continuing to be ongoing. And there's punishment, but then there's also discipline. And the discipline to me is making sure that they learn the lessons that they've got to have for long after they're at Georgia. And certainly it equates to where we're at Georgia, but the lessons and knowledge that they have to have when they leave. And I think that's what part of the discipline process is. But we've been on top of that since the very beginning of when it happened.
Any missed games for any of those?
I don't have anywhere to comment on that right now. Then it's just all internal.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
We'll next go back to Mark Weiser, followed by Jed May.
Got another question about Anthony. Tom, I know you were well aware of what kind of talent you had when he before he got to Georgia. I wondered from the months he was on campus, was there a moment, whether on the practice court, a shoot around, a game, where you saw something that made you think that this guy is different?
There's plenty, Mark. I would go, let me give you a couple. That's a great question. Let me give you a couple examples. 3 weeks in is when he realized all of this was different. When we were back in June, even of his freshman year, and it's like you learn that it's completely different than what you ever would have thought. And no matter what you come in as, okay, and he came in predestined. I hadn't coached too many guys that were predestined for the NBA at a very early age. Cody Zeller was probably like that. But again, Victor Oladipo, 1 scholarship offer. Dwayne Wade, 3 to 5 scholarship offers. Those guys didn't come in predestined. They earned it. And a lot of times what happens is when you're predestined, you'll also feel, because of the way you've been raised in basketball, that you're anointed, right? He realized pretty quick that's not how it is. And I think he ran with that, right? And he never came in here and acted like this was owed him, or he was something that was all that, so to speak. He had to earn it. And he really started to figure out that he could get better. And I think when you first find out that you've got some things that aren't there, or you can be better, right, it's hard to take that. And then you realize, like, man, they're not backing off. We're not taking a day off here. We're not taking a day off there. We're going hard every day that we're out there. I think that was great for him. No question, the Michigan State second half, you'd have to say was a big moment. But there was a moment near the end of the season, and probably 2 weeks left in the season, and we're practicing and we're scrimmaging at the end of practice. And we're in game week and all that type of stuff, and we scrimmaged, and it was like Michigan State reincarnated. He made 6 out of 7 threes in a scrimmage, and he was getting to the rim. It was mesmerizing. I mean, and it's like, here's this guy, and again, it kind of likened, yeah, we've had some really good games with him, but some of these best moments, because he's so young, the public didn't even get to see. Like if we put that practice film out on social media, it get a whole bunch of hits. Trust me. But my point is, like, when you're young like that and you're learning the game, you're never quite sure where those moments are going to come. And it did, right? And I think that's why that's going to happen for the next couple of years too. He's going to have some great moments in practice that aren't always going to manifest in the games because he's very, very young. And it was really hard for anybody to keep in perspective that he should have been a high school senior, right? And he's being asked, when you come in with that predestination and you come in with those accolades and expectations, it's not a little bit harder, it's a lot harder. But he came in every day, and what I think maybe hit us, here's the best story I have on him when it comes to who he is. We're having a day in practice and Mike Peake and Jaquan Walton are struggling. They're not playing a lot. They're not in great moods. They're struggling. And we're in a defensive drill, and it's a shell drill. So there's 3 groups of 4. All right. Their group was short one, and it was going to have to be a graduate assistant, or no, it's got to be one of our managers to step into that. Anthony not only participated in his group, but he played in their group for the entire 20 minutes, 25 minutes that we did it, because he didn't want those guys to fail. So it wasn't like it was just Ray Sean Hammonds or Tyree Crump or Jordan Harris. It was guys that weren't even playing. He didn't want them to fail. And the level of empathy that young man has, the level of care he has for his teammates is unique. It's very, very unique. And as he grows, he's going to be a leader in that league, and he's going to be a leader to older people. It's not going to happen right away. Not going to happen right away. But if he gets nurtured the right way, it's going to happen. And we saw enough of those moments, Mark, to make me believe that is definitely going to be the case if he continues to stay in a good trajectory with the program that he's in.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Coach, you mentioned this with Chip's question a little bit earlier, but how much different is it trying to build a program now, I guess, as compared to your first couple of years at Indiana with, like you said, transfer rules, the ever, I guess, increasing popularity of the one and dones, some guys choosing to go to the G League instead of college, all that kind of stuff?
Oh, I think it's extremely different. There were no grad transfers when we took over Indiana. Grad transfers, we wouldn't have won 6 and 10 games our first 2 years there. And there's no way. I mean, we would have, there was not the eligibility ability to get people eligible as quick back then. But I think now you've got to be smart. Like I've said to these guys, there's guys we really want to sign and recruit. And some we're still in on, some we didn't get. But you know what? The bottom line is it's much more important about who you get rather than when you get them. And it's much more important to be right about the guys that you want. And then also at the same time, be smart and cognizant and diligent about what's on the horizon. And this is going to be the first year, in all likelihood, that the one-time transfer rule is going to be in effect. You see how quickly kids are getting eligible that transferred. In our own league, changed the way it worked with the Kentucky guys getting eligible after they allowed this year to have 1 free year, basically. So everybody playing college basketball gets 1 free year. I mean, there's changes all the time right now. And the most important thing we can do is take a breath, through this and look at it and say, okay, we've got to make sure that we get the right guys. And we want to get freshmen, but we also want to be able in this league to make sure that we can stay older, because it's very, very hard to consistently win when you're young all the time. And there's always outliers to that. Kentucky's an outlier to that. But for the most part, Duke at times is an outlier to that. But for the most part, you got to get a little bit older. You've got to get a little bit older. You've got to have a good balance. And to me, that's what we've got to stay aware of. So again, even more confidence after the fact that the spring started, Ray left, and we had 0 seniors. And by the start of the summer, we had 3 seniors that are all going to be very important parts of our team. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way college basketball is laid out right now. You have to adjust and be flexible to the rules. You have to anticipate rule changes. You have to wait on rule changes. And you just got to keep reading the future, even when you don't have any idea what it's saying. You got to keep reading it. And that to us is what we want to keep doing.
Thank you.
We'll go back to Anthony Dasher and then Palmer Toms.
Hey, Coach, just a couple of quick things, just real quick. Not sure if you can say or not, but can you say how many of your players tested positive for COVID? And also, do you expect to sign anybody during the early signing period?
Yeah, I'm not gonna comment on the numbers. I think we've tried to stay really true to that as a university in the SEC. At least I think we've had significant, when it comes to players and coaches throughout the summer and fall, and knowing that it could happen again. I'd leave it at that. We could sign, but we also may not, because some of the kids that we're recruiting right now may not sign in this period, and that's just part of it. I mean, again, you've got to have that flexibility. And again, I just keep telling these guys, it's much more important about who than it is about when. And frankly, I was really hoping that there wouldn't be an early signing period, because we haven't been out
Yeah.
to see people. I mean, literally, we haven't played a game, until, I think it was Wednesday, was the 11th, right? That'd been 8 months. Well, it's been longer than that since we've seen a recruit in person. And it's so hard. I mean, we can talk about Zooms and FaceTimes and texting and all that different stuff, which is great, but it never, ever replaces the face-to-face of them seeing you in your environment or you seeing them in their environment. And I don't know when that's going to change. It may not change all year. So we're continuing to recruit, obviously, but we've got to be extremely diligent. And I think what's happening is Steve McLean has brought so much here in the sense of what we're doing basketball-wise. You're somebody that knows me so well. I know him so well. We've been together through so many different things. Well, he also knows what we're trying to do recruiting wise and what works. And I think that's been a really good help for Chad and John as we go through this as well. And because there's a lot of good players out there, but the way that we want to play and the upside that we want to have in that is really, really important. And so we just kind of take it day by day, which I think is the best way to do this right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, with so much turnover once again, what are some realistic goals for this team for this season? And is this where you envision the program would be headed into your third season?
Yeah, those are all. I have no ability to answer either one of those because because we don't know what's going to happen with this year. And I like where we're getting better. I like the guys that we have. What it means this season. I have no idea, and I don't think any of us could even. We've got to make sure that we're doing everything every day to make sure we get to the next game and hope that the team we're playing is doing the exact same thing. Because there's so many changes. I mean, think about it. There's going to be anywhere from 25 to 27 games, but you have to have a minimum of 13 to qualify for the NCAA tournament. There's a lot of obviously people. You're going to have a lot of flexibility during the year. But as far as like looking at it, did I think this where we'd be? I don't know. I didn't think we'd be signing 8 guys into the third year, but you know what? We may do it again next year. I don't think there's any way that you can plan ahead right now as these new rules come in. And because we all say as coaches, okay, well, the landscape's really going to change when the one-time transfer rule comes in. Interconference transfer ability, as you saw, came in with the SEC this year inside of football, inside the season. All right, there's so many things that are changing now and that are on the cusp of changing that there's absolutely no way that you can plan for that. And you got to try to be a step ahead, but in a lot of cases, you're not going to be. I mean, we could talk for the next hour about the potential pitfalls of where these rules are going with interconference transfers, with the immediate eligibilities, with the one-time transfers. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's here to stay. It is what it is. And so we've got to do the best job we can do with that. And, my biggest concern through so many things when you build a program has always been APR. Well, now the APR is going to take a halt in certain areas. Who thought that everybody would get a free year out of this? I mean, we could have looked at it in the spring and said it's potential, but I didn't think it would happen. Now everybody's got a free year. So there's no way to really gauge it. And I just think if you get ahead of your, jump out ahead of your skis, so to speak, you're going to be in trouble. And you can have a vision and you can have a plan. And I think staying true to what works for winning and how you want to play is the most important thing you can do when it comes to recruiting a talent. But the character, the desire to be at Georgia, the desire to be educated, the desire to work hard every to see your teammates be better and be a better teammate. Those are the things we've got to really do our research on.
And Mark Weiser, see your hand still up. Another question or just floating?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Tom, I think you used the word cluster or something to describe the non-conference schedule, trying to finalize that. How much is starting with so many home games and who the opponents are by design, given the 8 newcomers that you have? And have you also talked to Memphis or SMU about playing next year?
Well, the SMU contract was over because that was totally through the MTE,
Sure.
and that was done by the promoter. So there'll be no return game there. I do truly believe Memphis is coming back here. That's part of the process. I think personally, I didn't really want to have us travel to an MTE, and I may second guess that, but I didn't want to put us in that situation. I mean, with so much unknown, and then so many different things changing. I mean, see what we've already seen with Orlando and South Dakota and all those different places. Would getting on the road be good for a team? Yes. Is this a normal year? It's anything but normal, as everybody knows. So the most important thing of keeping your team growing confidently, getting better is there, but nothing is more important than keeping them as safe for as long as you can. And because we know we're going to be playing a lot of road games once the SEC schedule gets here. So we've tried to do the best we could do with that. The rough draft of this schedule, especially the opening of this schedule, probably changed 15 times, 12, 15, 16 times in the last month. And it just is what it is. Between Brian Fish and John Bateman, they've done a fantastic job with this, but it is what it is. And we've got to do the best job we can with it. So is this good? I appreciate everybody. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.